Thank you very much. And now we will have the playing of the national anthem of Uganda.
In 1872, she was arrested for voting. She was tried and fined $100 for her crime, a fine she never paid. On her 86th birthday in 1906, Anthony gave her final speech. She concluded with the words, and I quote, "Failure is impossible." This quote became the motto of women's suffrage activists. They continued to advocate, mobilize, speak out, and march. 13 years after Anthony's death, women achieved the right to vote through the 19th Amendment, which became known as the Susan B. Anthony Amendment, in memory of a powerful crusader who believed firmly in the equality of women. The women's suffrage movement transformed American democracy by vastly enlarging the number of people who could vote. As women gained additional rights, the United States became more and more prosperous, and we began to give truth to our country's founding ideals of equality and liberty. Today, our tradition of vibrant civic advocacy continues as American citizens come together to celebrate and protect the rights enshrined in our Constitution. Women have made enormous contributions in all aspects of U.S. society. On the big screen this evening, we are showing a slideshow of just some of the women who have made significant contributions to our country. They include, they include social activists, congresswomen, Supreme Court justices, and more. We also have a poster display in the tent to my left that includes some famous photographs of influential women in the United States over the years. These women are the public and more famous faces, but behind them stand legions of women who have benefited from the advocacy of those early suffragettes and the trailblazers who pushed the boundaries of achievement. Now, we know that there is still much more work to be done to achieve full equality for women in the United States, but we have made progress. The current U.S. Congress, sworn in January, broke several records. It has more female representatives than ever before, with a total of 127. We elected our first Muslim American women, our first Native American women, and the youngest woman ever to be elected. As someone who came of age in the heart of the women's movement in the United States in the 1960s and 70s, I am glad to see this increased representation of women, but extremely frustrated that it has taken so long. And we still haven't cracked the ultimate glass ceiling and put a woman in the White House, although I continue to believe it will happen, and I hope happen very soon. Long overdue. These recent successes show us the way to reinvigorate a new generation in the fight for women to have a seat at the table and to be heard. And while other countries around the world have also made strides in these past 100 years in improving women's lives and offering greater opportunities, achieving true gender equality for all women remains an elusive goal. Balance for better was the theme of this year's International Women's Day. Indeed, it is the goal for which we strive. The opportunity for every woman and girl to stand side by side with every man and boy, to work together to build the future we all deserve. It's not about one over the other or one better than the other. It's about a balance and standing side by side in partnership. Women's rights are human rights, and women's issues are human issues. They are also international development issues. Research clearly shows that investments in women's employment, health, and education have a direct connection to a country's economic growth and successful development. This is a proven fact. No nation can become a vibrant middle-income country if it leaves half of its population out of the development equation. Just as women in the United States are making great contributions to our country, the same is true in Uganda. It seems like every day I am meeting talented young Ugandan women who are dedicated to contributing to their country and are already making a difference in many ways. There's a long history here of women agitating for change in different spheres, and there is a new generation of young women who have great promise in this regard. For example, I remember attending the Women's March last year, organized by a group of young, very tech-savvy Ugandan women. As is true globally, much more work remains to achieve equality for Ugandan women. One major area of concern, and perhaps the greatest constraint on women's full participation, is the high levels of gender-based violence. The number of gender-based violence cases reported in Uganda continues to increase annually. Not only is gender-based violence an assault on the ideal of equal rights for all, but it is also harming Uganda's prosperity. A study by the Center of Domestic Violence Prevention showed that gender-based violence costs Uganda 77.5 billion shillings annually in lost profits and expenses. 77.5 billion. Imagine what could be done with that money. Empowerment of women and girls is a core part of U.S. foreign policy around the world. In Uganda, the American people are investing in a broad range of programs to support women and girls. Most of our funding is dedicated to women's health, especially maternal and child health, prevention of gender-based violence, and prevention, care, and treatment of HIV, AIDS, and tuberculosis. We are also very focused on supporting girls' education and literacy, something that is so fundamental to giving girls and women a chance to succeed. The DREAMS program, funded by the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, or PEPFAR, aims to prevent sexual violence and new HIV infections in Uganda among at-risk girls and young women by increasing their access to education and employment opportunities. And we have also trained Ugandan representatives from law enforcement and the judiciary in preventing, combating, and prosecuting gender-based violence cases. But we know that there's still more work to be done. There's also a lot more I could say about all the programming that the U.S. government does in Uganda, but the bottom line is that we view the empowerment of women as fundamental to Uganda's success, and our programs reflect this. Each year, we produce an annual report to the Ugandan people, a report that explains all of the work that we are doing in partnership with Ugandans for the development of this country. We expect our next edition, the third edition, to be ready in August, and I hope you all will take the time to read it. Going forward, we are very excited to strengthen our efforts in partnership with the Ugandan government and its people to support girls and women throughout the country. The work of advancing women's rights is difficult and uncomfortable. We have certainly experienced this in the United States, but it is crucial work, and we urge the government of Uganda to prioritize actions to combat gender-based violence and ensure equal opportunity. How many events do all of us here attend every year that call attention to the high prevalence of gender-based violence, only to see little concrete action afterward? We must channel our collective outrage over sexual harassment, assault, physical and emotional violence against women into meaningful actions, not just blame the victims and sweep incidents under the rug. How do we advance this fight? Education, health, and poverty eradication are all key to creating an environment that protects women and children and allows girls to grow safely and to achieve their full potential. Yes, infrastructure is important for long-term economic growth and development, but it cannot come at the expense of investments in education and health, because human capital is equally as important as infrastructure. Balance for better applies here as well, and I return to my earlier comment that countries cannot succeed without women fully in the development equation. How do we get there? By remembering those women in the early days of the fight for the vote and their opening salvo in the battle for gender equality. Susan B. Anthony and her sisters refused to be quiet. They challenged the status quo, made those in power feel uncomfortable, and said things in their day that sounded radical. Men called them pesky, impertinent, and names not suitable for polite company. Men arrested them, broke up their rallies, and returned them to their husbands and fathers for discipline. But still, these courageous women stood up and spoke up for what they believed, for what was right, and for what was good for the future of the country. They stood firm and strong in the face of adversity and opposition, steadfast in the belief that failure is impossible. Democracy is built on the belief that the people have a right to determine their collective future, not just to have a say in how they are governed, but in how they live and how they build a better, stronger society together. Civic advocacy, collective action, and active engagement are vital to a vibrant democracy, because when we as citizens are not engaged, not paying attention, that is when our rights begin to disappear. Susan B. Anthony, her sisters, and activists who followed her in the women's movement and eventually the civil rights movement show us the incredible and amazing power of people coming together, using their voices constructively and peacefully to create change. Do not ever be quiet. In closing, I would like to say a special thank you to our sponsors. Businesses in Uganda in the technology, healthcare, transportation, agriculture, hospitality, financial, and engineering sectors. They include, and I know we all somehow will always probably still miss someone, but here goes: Ag Vision International, Andela, ATC, Citibank Uganda, Coca-Cola Beverages Africa, Delta Airlines, Phoenix International, GE Healthcare, Hill & Knowlton, Honeywell, KFC, Marsh & McLennan Companies, Nile Breweries, Raxio Data Center, Sheraton Hotel, Scythe Global Power, LLC, and Uber. They have invested in Uganda's future and its people, and they demonstrate the power of what our country's private sectors can do together. I also want to say a very big thank you to the U.S. Mission family for all the work that they do every day in service to our country, and for all of your efforts in putting together tonight's event, even with a rainstorm in the middle of it. And thank you once again to everyone here for joining us in tonight's celebration and for your continued partnership and friendship with all of us at the U.S. Mission. Now, if you would please join me in a toast. Please raise your glasses to the lasting bonds of friendship between the United States and Uganda and our efforts to continue to strengthen our partnership in many endeavors. And now, I would like to take this opportunity to invite our guest of honor for the evening, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, for his remarks. Thank you.
Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, the Ambassadors and High Commissioners, Members of Parliament, distinguished friends, ladies and gentlemen. His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni was invited at Come and Grace this occasion. He has not been able to make it because of other significant state engagements, and he has delegated me to represent him, so I will convey his speech. It runs as follows. On behalf of the government of the Republic of Uganda and on my own behalf, I wish to extend my warm greetings and heartfelt congratulations to you and through you to the government and the people of the United States of America as you celebrate 243 years of independence. This day is an important commemoration day, and Uganda proudly associates itself with it. We associate with the ideals that inspired and guided the American struggle for independence 243 years ago. Like the United States, our country upholds these ideals of equality, a point that you have dwelt with on in your speech. And by the way, Uganda fully supports the emancipation of women. So the issue of equality, consent of the governed, the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All of these we share, and we agree with the founders of the United States. I thank Your Excellency for the invitation and for the generous hospitality accorded to all of us as we join Americans in celebrating this historic occasion. Uganda enjoys excellent bilateral relations with the United States of America. Our warm relations have been maintained and strengthened over the years through the active engagements at different levels, including the highest levels. United States Presidents Bill Clinton and George Bush visited Uganda in March 1998 and in July 2003, respectively. While that's President Museveni, during my visit to the United States in September 2017, I met with President Donald Trump in New York. Like the United States, Uganda has put trade and investment at the center of its foreign policy. The trade volume and diversity of products exchanged between our two countries have been steadily increasing, but there is room for further improvement. Besides AGOA, for which Uganda remains eligible, the United States also signed Trade and Investment Framework Agreement, TIFA, with the East African Community in 2008 to further enhance avenues of mutual economic benefits. We welcome the United States government efforts to supporting bilateral trade and investment between our two countries. It is also notable that the United States approach towards Africa continues to shift from aid to industrial development. The creation of the United States International Development Finance Corporation, which will more than double the amount of money available for the U.S. investment to U.S. $60 billion under Build Act of 2018 is indeed very significant. Last month, the Prime Minister, that's myself now, attended a successful United States Business Summit in Maputo, which brought together more than 1,000 U.S. and African private sector executives, international investors, senior government officials, and multilateral stakeholders. The summit was a prudent platform for U.S. and African business and government leaders to meet and explore new business opportunities. Uganda, therefore, welcomes the Prosper Africa Initiative, which was launched at this Maputo summit and has the potential of substantially increasing two-way trade and investment between the United States and Africa. We are also confident that a greater connection between the U.S. and African private sectors will further expand markets and enhance mutual economic benefits. And your team, for the important contribution you have made to strengthen trade and investment, and also consolidate the friendly relations between our two countries. Your Excellency, the U.S. provides significant development and security assistance to Uganda, with a total assistance budget exceeding $970 million per year. One can round it to $1 billion per year. We welcome this support in complementing our efforts of socio-economic transformation and development. This includes providing antiretroviral treatment for HIV-positive Ugandans and the President's emergency plan for AIDS relief PEPFAR, which you have already made reference to, and working to boost economic growth and agricultural productivity, amongst others. We also appreciate continued U.S. support in the fight against malaria, as well as disease prevention, control, management, and indeed disease treatment. Our partnerships with Centers for Disease Control has been particularly instrumental in bolstering Uganda's efforts and capacity to contain the spread of Ebola. Your Excellency, our two countries have maintained close bilateral engagements on diplomatic, political, and security issues. We welcome the efforts and support that the United States is giving in promoting stability in our region, including support for AMISOM. It is critical that support for these regional efforts continues in order to address the drivers of refugee influx in the region. Many of them are running from fighting, conflict, and wars, and therefore efforts at providing and ensuring that there is peace in the respective countries where they come from will be the sure way of stopping the influx of refugees. Uganda abhors terrorism and will continue to strengthen our bilateral collaboration in counter-terrorism efforts. The recent coordination between our two countries, which led to the rescue of the abducted American tourist Kimberly Sue, is testimony to the fruits of our close collaboration. On this note, yes, that definitely deserves a big clap. Our daughter was saved by the collaborative efforts by the two countries, so really it was an achievement. On this note, I'm happy to once again assure the international community that Uganda is a safe country and open for tourism, for business, and indeed open for investments. Uganda remains committed to working with the United States in achieving a stable, secure, and mutually prosperous nations. On this Independence Day, I wish to state that Uganda stands with the people of the United States in the spirit of partnership and friendship today and for many years to come. I wish to propose, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You can see the collaboration. I wish to propose a toast to the good health of His Excellency Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, the people of the United States of America, and to the continued friendship between Uganda and the United States of America. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.